is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
So we're back with you. I'm going to bring in Patrick Byrne. We've got him online now. Thank you.
Hey, Todd, are we live?
We're live, Patrick.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, man. I got my time zones messed up.
All good. All good. I just appreciate you getting on the show. Thank you very much. I wanted to have you on because of some of the stuff you've been posting. First, let's talk election fraud. You posted something, and in fact, I brought it out. You said, this could be something Harmeet Dillon could look into. That is, if she's actually interested in fixing anything. And this is over the Pennsylvania, I think it was District 36 mail-in ballot issue, which, you know, is obviously what's going on. That was a red district for decades, and all of a sudden it flips. What say you?
Well, I think that she has, I'll put it this way. You're going to discover there's, I think, big news coming out to the world in the single-digit months ahead, sooner rather than later. I don't want to put it, but the whole truth of what happened is now known. And it's working its way through all the channels of government, and we'll see how long it takes them to do their thing. But as it gets public, people should know that Harmeet Dillon, we probably knew 20% of that truth or 25% of it on November 3rd, or November 10th, 2020. Harmeet, by the time 2 years ago she was introduced to it, she probably there was 60 or 70% of what will eventually become known. We already had 60 or 70%. She wanted nothing to do with it. She knew it was true and backed away, or she, as well as all kinds of people in Congress, it was so radioactive, they all backed away. So they're willing to police up little crimes. They're afraid to take on things from a systemic point of view. And I worry that President Trump doesn't understand that many of these people he's relying on had 50, 60, 70% of the truth for a couple of years, still did nothing. And
you're talking about the 2020 truth is what you're talking about, right? The whole election.
I'm talking about the truth of 2020.
Yeah. So we've got the blank ballots in Florida. We've got the mail-in ballots in Florida and across in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. We have the captured government in Arizona. Is the new FBI head and is the new DNI, and are they investigating? Is that why they're quiet, or are they just ignoring? I mean, what do you think?
I have confidence in Kash Patel. I have confidence in Tulsi Gabbard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with Pam Bondi and John Radcliffe. I don't think they're the type of people who will bite the ass off a bear. Pam Bondi seems to be trying to position herself to enter politics. She's on Fox every night. She'd be arresting people. They could be arresting people. So, but I think that Kash Patel has the best interest of the country in his heart. It's a shame that, and I think John Radcliffe is going to have circles run around him by the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to bite the ass off a bear and get anything done, but Tulsi and Kash Patel will. And it's promising. Did you see that Trump a couple weeks ago, when Pam Bondi said we're not releasing Epstein files because it's national security, the next day or a day or two later, it was announced that Kash Patel now had a direct line to Donald Trump. I think that was probably.
What was that whole Epstein? I was asking Jack Maxey in the first hour, what was that influencer op that happened at the White House? Do you have any idea what that was? I mean, why do that, right? Why bring out binders, which you knew was old information, would be discovered as old information, and make everybody look stupid? I mean, what was the purpose of that? Do you have any thoughts?
It was the folks in New York. Who did that. The guy that she fired and who then walked out to the applause of his office.
The FBI guy.
That guy should have been confined to his home, and investigated. So he did that to make her look stupid. And then she sent people up and they just raided the offices and they took everything in that FBI office about it.
Interesting.
So, but she didn't know the material well enough to know that what he gave her was really quite anodyne.
So, but she was in Florida during this whole thing, during the old Epstein thing. Shouldn't she have known, or shouldn't she have read? You just think she was tricked and wasn't up to the task.
Yeah, I think that she was tricked and didn't really know. And they gave her some anodyne files filled with stuff that I think had been out for years.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't
And
new.
she thought it was, she thought it was some big new thing. She didn't really know the subject well enough.
Any insight on the JFK files while we're on the releases? I don't think it was all the information, but it was a lot. But there's still much that's still there, right?
I hear that when you feed it into AI comes out and says it was not a lone gunman, and LBJ ordered it, and it seems to have been the CIA, the Israeli Mossad, and using the mafia. Is that about the good summary of it?
I think that's, and maybe that's why the rest isn't being released. Judicial corruption, Judge Boasberg and all of them. Is a district court going to run the foreign policy of the United States?
Well, Trump is right to ignore them. He should ignore them. It's not a justiciable question. And he's absolutely wrong. I mean, it's an open and shut. It's a judge. The language of the Alien Enemies Act. The whole question is, okay, if we're at war with a country, Donald Trump has, per the Alien Enemies Act, the right to take any male from that country who's in our country, who's over the age of 14, and just round them up and send them home. And he can do it. He just has to declare. He just has to proclaim it. He doesn't have to answer to anybody. And so the question is, are we at war with Venezuela? Well, and that's what the judge is saying. Is there? Well, the language says if there's a war or if there's an attempt. Do you have that language handy, by the way?
No, I don't, but I have your post that you put up where they were asking, is the U.S. at war with Venezuela? And Gabbard stated there are conflicting assessments in the intel community on that.
Yeah, well, there's really two interesting aspects to this. First of all, the legalistic people like the judge who's saying we're not a declared war. The language says if you're at a war or if there's an attempt by another country to infiltrate its people, then the president has such and such right. Well, it clearly, the second clause, absolutely clearly could have been written for today. Let me pull up the language of the Alien Enemies Act. It's really worth hearing because it's black and white. It just tells you shows you what an activist judge looks like.
Well, people don't realize that these district courts are authorized by Congress and they can be defunded and taken down by Congress. So that seems like a likely avenue if they had the will, which it doesn't seem like that Mike Johnson really does. I mean, he's threatened it, but he hasn't, he's made no action to actually do it in the face of this judicial corruption.
Yeah, it's Mike Johnson. I think so many of these people are compromised, I got to tell you, or they're weak sisters. They're not really used to having to do anything in life that required a lot of courage. And I think a lot more courage is being demanded of them, and they're showing. But Trump absolutely has the right to do this. I know quite a bit about that subject, by the way. I can tell you about the trend at Aragua for a minute if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, please. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Prison is the worst in Venezuela. And I know you watch my videos and we talked about them. The mastermind of the Venezuelan regime. First of all, the Venezuelan mafia is the Venezuelan regime. It's the place where nation state turns into government. So it is the mafia of the generalissimos, the cartel de los soles, because the generals wear suns on their shoulders. So the mafia is the government. And the mastermind is a guy named Jorge Rodriguez, and his sister, Delcy Rodriguez, is the vice president. And Jorge Rodriguez is a psychiatrist in the footsteps of Hannibal Lecter. He's a complete psychopath. And he and his sister went down to this Aragua prison, I think it was 2009 or 2012, and they met with the gang leaders. and they said, we'll let you out and you'll be our enforcers. And a deal was made. And so since then, dissidents in Venezuela don't have to worry only about the secret police showing up. They got to worry about, these gangsters who are going to show up and behead them and disembowel them and hang them upside down from a bridge. It's that kind of a gang. So it's absolutely acts as an arm of the government. It was pushed here. It actually, the power players were moved to Colombia. They were given Colombian fake ID, sent to Nicaragua. Then the Sinaloan cartel brought them up and infiltrated them into the United States. And I know that I know a lot about what's going on in Venezuela. And I don't have that from the U.S. government. I have that from my Venezuelan colleagues. Mm-hmm. So that's what's really going on. That absolutely meets the language of the Alien Enemies Act. What's also funny is you can find this clip also in President Maduro of Venezuela came out a couple of weeks ago and he said, and the clip was up in my Twitter feed, he said, basically, why are y'all getting mad at us for sending you these people? Check with your own FBI offices in Colombia. Check with your FBI offices in Panama. Biden told us to send you these people. He told us to give you our rapists and killers. Biden told us to. We'll show you the proof. So that's all one side of this. It absolutely does meet the Alien Enemies Act. And the thing that was very interesting in that clip, did you play that clip by any chance?
No, I haven't. No.
It's 2 minutes. Would you like to play it for your audience? It's very subtle.
Go ahead. Yeah, send it to me. Which
didn't you just have it? The one you just showed about Tulsi.
I don't have I can pull it up on Telegram. Maybe was that a video?
That was a link to a Twitter that had a 2-minute movie in it. It's really worth watching if you can watch the 2 minutes.
Let me see if I can find that. Yes, hold on one second. We will do that. Okay, is that the 2 minutes with Scott Pressler? No, that's not it.
No, it's Tulsi Gabbard.
I was looking at your Liz Harrington post. Keep talking. I'll try to find it.
Okay, I'm trying to find it as well. Replies.
Well, there was something came out just this morning with that from a retired Gary Bernstein.
Yeah, we worked together for the last few years.
So he's saying that we
know the same truth. We're talking about the same thing. Go ahead. What did he say this morning?
Well, the Trinidad is no longer just a violent street gang. They may wear the face of criminality, but they are operating paramilitary training inside the U.S. A lot of the fires recently may have been started by them, and that sabotage and other operations inside the U.S. The CIA doesn't want to do anything about it, essentially is what he's saying.
Yeah, the CIA is compromised. We know the same things. We know we're talking to we're the same friends. We've worked together for several years, Gary and I.
Interesting.
And he's correct. It is absolutely an arm of the government. It's an arm of Jorge Rodriguez and Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, the grandmaster chess player on the other side, organizing to take down the U.S., the grandmaster behind the regime, the mafia, and his sister that's who it answers to. And it's very much on the Iranian model. That's what the Iranians started doing a decade ago. Instead of having when there's protesters, instead of the secret police showing up and sniping them, what happens is crowds of thugs show up with 2x4s and beat the hell out of them. And the government steps aside and says, well, it wasn't us. It looked just some good, loyal citizens took on these protesters. So they're used to using these street gang model, but the Trinidad Rock was just not a street gang. It's the most vicious. These are the guys who disembowel folks and hang them up from a bridge. They're really the awful guys.
So Boasberg wanting to stop the deportation is just showing his colors, right?
Correct. I think we have I think this is a Bolshevik revolution, what we've been going through the last 4 years. And they're still clinging to it. And the fake election of 2020 was simply one chapter in it.
Which was a Venezuelan company, Smartmatic, right?
Venezuelan company, yeah. Basically, the short version is Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. It's bigger than Saudi Arabia. And so a mafia centered on a general named Hugo Chavez, but an outright mafia, took over the country, got themselves elected the first time, and then just cheated and took over and corrupted. And they wanted to be able to pump that oil and keep the money. And so far, we think they've stolen, but Gary thinks they've stolen somewhere between $1.5 and $4 trillion. Okay. I was in Venezuela 7 years ago, and while their own people were starving, they were like living like kings, the military and government. Mm-hmm. But if you've got that gig going and you're going to be stealing $4 trillion over a generation, there's something else you need to steal. And so they stole that by corrupting and taking over the oil company of Venezuela, nationalizing it. It's called PDVSA. The other thing they stole is they stole the election system, the election commission, and they made it one you could cheat in, and then they commercialized this. It's a company called Smartmatic, and Smartmatic technology is in everybody's computers now. So the whole question becomes, so to me, Tren de Aragua is just the next stage. First, they hit us with espionage, then they rigged our election systems, and now 20,000 Tren de Aragua. They're not just killers. The south of Venezuela has been turned into a terrorist training camp, and they've trained these people to be cell leaders. So it came up yesterday in Congress. The Democrats are saying under the Alien Enemies Act, Trump only has the authority to throw these people out if we're at war with Venezuela. Are we at war with Venezuela? Well, first they're wrong. He has the authority just because of that Tren de Aragua story I just told you. They don't have to be in a declared war. But secondly, something very subtle comes out of this video. Let's watch it. Now that's a long preamble. Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
I want to ask about the Alien Enemies Act real quick while I have time. The president has used the Alien Enemies Act, a wartime authority last used to detain German and Japanese nationals during World War II, to summarily deport people accused of being members of the Venezuelan gang, Tren de Agua. To invoke this law, the president must demonstrate that the United States is under invasion by a foreign nation or government. They have alleged that we are under invasion by the Venezuelan government. The idea that we are at war with Venezuela would come as a surprise to most Americans. The unclassified version of the annual threat assessment the intelligence community just released makes no mention of any invasion or war that we are fighting with the nation of Venezuela. You would think our nation being at war would merit at least a small reference in this threat assessment. And Director Ratcliffe, does the intelligence community assess that we are currently at war or being invaded by the nation of Venezuela?
We have no assessment that says that.
Thank you. In invoking the law, the president alleged that Tren de Agua is, quote, undertaking hostile actions against the U.S. at the direction, clandestine or otherwise, of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Director Gabbard, does the intelligence community assess that the Venezuelan government is directing Tren de Agua's hostile actions against the United States?
There are varied assessments that came from different intelligence community elements. I'll defer to Director Patel to speak specifically to the FBI assessment.
But let me ask you, so you're saying there are conflicting assessments that have come from the IC?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. We'll take it up in closed session.
So there you go, Patrick. What was
that's
you can bring out there?
A lot of things happening there. Where do you want to start?
Well, go ahead. You have the insight on that video.
Well, first of all, he's wrong. I'm looking up the language of the act of the Alien Enemies Act. I have it in front of me, and it says, "Be it enacted that it should be lawful for the president at any time to order." Anyway, and I'm trying to find the specific language. So,
well, take a look there. I'm going to play this 30-second video. You can find exactly what you're looking for. This is the Venezuela's being deported. So that was on the airplane recently, but go ahead.
Interesting. They're not going to be so cocky when they find out what a El Salvadorian jail looks like. Here it is.
Yeah.
Be it enacted that whenever there shall be a declared war between the U.S. and any foreign nation, or any invasion and so I'm sorry. First, they're using that language and saying, "Well, is there a declared war?" No, Trump has declared a war. They're leaving out that it says, "Or any invasion or predatory incursion shall be perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against the territory of the U.S. by any foreign nation or government, and the president shall make a public proclamation of the event. All of the males from 14 and up from that nation who aren't citizens can be deported."
Mm-hmm.
That seems to cut. I just described the story of Delcy and Jorge Rodriguez, the Tren de Aragua, them getting sent here, whether or not Biden asked them to do it. Does that count under the language of a foreign any invasion or predatory incursion?
Obviously, a predatory incursion. You've got an armed force in the United States here on purpose.
They're catching them with missiles, with like a man portable anti-aircraft stuff. Yeah, you would think that that's black and white, but this is where lawfare comes in. And with lawfare, the process is the punishment. They know they can tie this up in the court for 2 years. So it's effectively a lot like you get to overrule the president, and suddenly you got some district judge who thinks he runs national security. However, it turns out, I mean, it's no coincidence. These judges it's the same judge in so many. These assignments are supposed to be random. They're obviously not random.
Yeah.
And these same judges show up in so many of the key cases.
So where does this go from here? Do you think it goes directly to the Supreme Court, or will it play it? I mean, this is something that should be an emergency hearing, I would think.
It should. And to be honest, if the Supreme Court finds the right way, I'm not even sure I'd recommend Trump follow them. We clearly may come to a place it breaks, but we can't let these people, these Bolsheviks, are destroying the constitutional order. Another thing going on in that tape is interesting. The congressman asked John Radcliffe, has the intelligence community come to an assessment that we're at war with Venezuela? Well, so one thing that's interesting is the CIA and John Radcliffe say no. And from Tulsi Gabbard's speech, one would infer that the FBI and Kash Patel is saying yes.
So that's important because she's above the CIA now, which the buck stops with her on what the president sees, right? Yeah,
and that's a very deep thing, that there's a disagreement, and it says wonderful things for the FBI and Kash Patel are correct about this, and I know they have the intelligence that would confirm that to them, and they're correct. So that tells me that John Radcliffe, I worry that John Radcliffe isn't going to be up for the job. I worry that the CIA is going to run circles around him. The fellow's a lawyer from Texas. Did a bit of prosecuting. He's not up.
He's got a history of not timely acting on things. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
In addition, another thing to note that's quite kind of inappropriate is, there are 17 different intelligence agencies in the United States government. Every Commerce Department has a small intelligence agency. There's, of course, the Central Intelligence Agency. And for decades, the head of the CIA wore two hats. He both ran the CIA, that big pillar among the 17, the DIA, everything. He wore that hat, and he was chairman of the board. Since 9/11, that got reorganized, and the hat of chairman of the board was taken from the head of the CIA, and they created this new thing called the Directorate of National Intelligence, and that hat is now Tulsi Gabbard. So the truth is, John Radcliffe, he was asked as if, did the intelligence community, he should have corrected them and said, speaking for the CIA, no, we have not concluded that we're at war with Venezuela, or that they're behind this. That Tren de Aragua, the question is, does Tren de Aragua, are they taking orders from the government? They are. But it was kind of inappropriate for him not to respond. Well, the question was inappropriate. He doesn't, because he acted like he was speaking for the intelligence community. He wasn't. He was speaking for the CIA. Tulsi speaks for the intelligence community. Right. And she made clear it was a divided opinion.
That's really important. Is there anything else you wanted to get out? I've got to go to a break, but is that it you want to talk about, or is there anything else?
Nope, sorry I was a little late coming in, and hope I got something novel out of that.
You did. That's the points you brought up are really key. So Patrick, thank you. We'll be in touch. I really appreciate you coming on.
Bye-bye, Todd.
Take care. We'll be back with the SCIF